Welcome into the Big Hit. My name is Elliot Hicks. I'll be your host for tonight. We've got a great show for you. We have an NHL playoff preview with Jake Taylor and Mike Costa, and then we'll get into a little bit of early season baseball with Jared Brown and Chris Hayes. Stay tuned. We got a great one for you here on the Big Hit. Welcome back to the Big Hit. It's playoff time in the NHL, and we got our hockey guys Jake Taylor and Mike Costa here to talk about it. And where else can we start but the Battle of Pennsylvania in round one? The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers are going to take each other on again. The last team these guys met in the playoffs, it was an upset win for Philly, but the Penguins are hungry looking for their third Stanley Cup in a row. Can the underdog Flyers pull off another shocking series win, or is Pittsburgh just too strong? We'll start with you, Sid.
Well, you know, my boss has been telling me I have to be less biased here on the Big Hit, so I'm going to take all the bias out and say Pens in fourth. That's how certain I am that the Flyers are going to lose this series. I mean, maybe not Pens in four, but Pens in three if it was possible, because the Penguins are just such a better team. Fun fact, they already swept the Flyers in the regular season. Yep. They really did. I'm not even just talking down on the Flyers here. I'm saying that if you don't have Claude Giroux in that team is bad. The team's terrible, just a bad team.
Terrible.
I mean, I think Jakub Voracek is a good player, but I think other than that, you don't see too much depth there on the defensive side of things. Mm-hmm. You have Shane Gostisbehere is about really all they have, and he's a really streaky player for that. I don't think he's very consistent. So I mean, maybe if he starts getting hot in this playoff series, I mean, it's only a few games, but you really just got to keep it. You got to keep him playing well if the defense wants to play well, especially for the scoring side of things. But you can't stress about how good the Penguins are. They're the defending Stanley Cup champions. And in all honesty, I don't see anyone stopping them. The only thing I think that can stop them is fatigue, because like I said, they all the time on the show that they play the most games out of any team ever in a 2-year span. In the last 3 seasons, they won 193 games. I mean, that's a win. That's 193 games to win alone. That's crazy. That's outrageous. So that's what I have to say for now. Just the Penguins are just too dominant.
Dude, I'm the same way. I think it's a sweep. I think they might get a game if they kind of like that 2012 series, you know, when they kind of lost their cool.
Yeah.
I think Philly might get a game if that happens, but dude, it's going to be a sweep. Game 5 maybe.
Yeah.
They've got a really good power play, so hopefully that keeps up. You know, best in the league, best in franchise history. I think they've got the best power play. When they got that net presence with Jake Gensel and Hornquist, I mean, you got guys like that kind of banging everybody up in front of the net. You know, it's going to be a real struggle for the Flyers to get some scoring opportunity, and I think we're going to get a lot of goals in front of the net. I think it's going to be a crazy series. On top of the regular season, dude, I think Voracek and Giroux only had 5 points combined in that whole series. So you talk about like your star athletes going out there, showing up in big moments and stuff like that. I mean, they got 5 points in that whole series. So what are they going to do? You know, we got Kessel, Malkin, Crosby, I think.
Brassard now, too.
And Brassard back, dude. We got a lot of depth at the center position. We got Letang back. We didn't have Letang last year.
We didn't have Letang last year. I mean, the fact that, like the Penguins, this team is honestly the only player that's really detrimental that lost was Marc-Andre Fleury to have that real strong goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
If Matt Murray wasn't playing well, you put Fleury, and Fleury's not playing well, Matt Murray. Other than that, they won the Stanley Cup without Chris Letang.
Dude.
And Chris Letang's back. He's a top 3 defenseman in the NHL.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. And then we even got better. I think Derek Brassard is a better player than Nick Bonino. I mean, you got Nick Bonino where they say, what are you going to do? Well, you know what you're going to do? You're going to get the 3rd highest point scorer in the Eastern Conference postseason, Derek Brassard. They have the number 1 scorer since 2012 in playoff points in the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. They have the number 1 scorer, Sidney Crosby. I mean, Evgeny Malkin. They're the number 2, Sidney Crosby. Number 3, Phil Kessel. And number 4, Derek Brassard. On the same team. First line center, second line center, third line center.
That's game over.
I mean, yeah.
That's game over. Yeah, that's it, dude. That's it.
It is.
So we all think Penguins are probably going to take this one, showing just a little bit of our Pittsburgh fan bias here. But
a little bit.
We're an hour from Pittsburgh, you can't help it. But there are plenty of other series in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And the winner of the Pens and Flyers series will take on the winner of the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Washington Capitals. The Caps don't have the same pressure on them this year as they have the last 2 years, being the President's Trophy winners and arguably Cup favorites in 2016 and 2017. Will that help them in this series? And whether it helps them or not, can the Blue Jackets manage to steal this series from under Alex Ovechkin's nose?
I think that I said on the NHL preview that they didn't want the President's Trophy because that is way too much pressure. This team is good. I mean, they are good here, and probably the best regular season team of this generation, in all honesty. That used to be I think Alex Ovechkin again is 7th. He just tied the NHL record for most Rucker Richard wins, the most goals.
Yep.
I mean, just to have he's arguably the best goal scorer of all time, and just having that is just amazing. But on the other side of things, you have Sergei Bobrovsky, who, in my opinion, top 3 goalie in the year, Vezina Trophy, won the Vezina last year. I mean, the Penguins kind of exploited that last year, but I really don't think it's going to be the case this year. Here, I think the Capitals, however, will win the series, but Columbus could really give them a scare. If Columbus doesn't, if the Capitals don't get it done early, it's going to be bad because I think Columbus can really rally around that home crowd here. They really have a nice home presence. They have a nice
dude,
home
that cannon gets me every time.
It does.
Every time
It's
they fire
good.
that cannon, dude, oh gosh. But yeah, I think they got it, dude. I think the Caps, I think it's going to kind of be the same thing. Honestly, the Caps have too much depth, dude. Too good.
Exactly.
On top of that Alex Ovechkin thing, he's got 9 45-goal seasons. He tied Gretzky. Yeah, like the dude's phenomenal. And like back then, they were like they were playing with soccer like shin pads, you know, like compared to goalies now, they're big blocks. But yeah, I've got the Caps. I think that the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're really rolling. They got Seth Jones and Panarin on that team.
Yeah, Panarin could be dangerous.
He's got a bunch of dirty goals, dude. I think it's going to be a high-scoring series. I think Ovechkin's going to show up, Bastrom's going to show up, Panarin's going to get a bunch of dirty goals. That goal scoring, or that goalie tandem that they got back and forth with Grubauer and Holtby, I don't think that's really a problem. You got Holtby, who's like a Vezina Trophy winner, phenomenal goaltender. He kind of like crapped a little bit in the season towards the end, but I think that with him and Grubauer, there's really no problem there. Grubauer's been lights out. I think that it's going to be... Yeah, I think there is pressure on the Caps still. I was thinking about that because you say that there's no pressure, but
not as much.
That's
pressure.
still but it's still. I feel like they're still thinking like, all right, we still have to do that. Like Ovechkin
no
probably
pressure,
thinking
so that no pressure really is pressure.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like a whole spin zone thing. Dude, it hurts my head thinking about it. But dude, what I want to see in this series, and I want vintage John Tortorella to come back. I want him to freak out post game, dude. I really want
the Caps locker.
I really want those post game interviews where he's just freaking out, probably calling out Backstrom and Ovi and saying they're cheap players and stuff like that, dude. I want that Tortorella back. I want that vintage Tortorella back.
That'd be nice.
Good series though. It's gonna be a really good series.
Yeah. You mentioned, I didn't even think about that, is they just announced today that they're starting Grubauer in net. They're not even starting Braden Holtby. So Braden Holtby.
I like that.
I do like that, but Braden Holtby's the best goaltender in the league.
That is true.
But his percentage, his save percentage in the playoffs he's the best playoff save percentage of all time.
Really? Yeah.
And he's on the bench. Yep. That's kind of a Matt Murray, Marc-Andre Fleury type thing. That could get scary.
Yeah, I don't know. Trotz is. We'll see if it works out too, but Grubauer's got the hot hand. I feel like you got to go with that, but I mean, we'll find out. Who knows?
It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, I was going to say, the last 2 Stanley Cup winners, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they've had 2 good goalies. For the Capitals to have both Grubauer and Holtby, definitely going to be interesting. And so the Capitals did not win the President's Trophy this year. That honor went to last year's Western Conference champions, the Nashville Predators. And unlike last season when they upset the Chicago Blackhawks on their way to that Western Conference championship berth, Nashville may be the favorites this year. They'll take on the Colorado Avalanche in round 1. It took them until the last day to clinch their playoff spot. They just barely squeaked in. Does Nashville steamroll the Avs in this series, or will Colorado play spoiler like the Preds did last year to the number 1 seed?
Oh no, I don't think it's going to be like that even close. I do like Nathan McKinnon. He's my pick for the NHL MVP this year, but the defense and just the skill on Nashville
dude, they're loaded. It's bad for every other team, dude.
For every other team in the West, it's so bad. The fact on defense, you have Roman Josi, PK Subban. Help me out.
The parent.
Oh my goodness!
The point is, there's a lot of really great defensemen that are playing in Nashville. So
but yeah, it really is. Their defense is the deepest defense. Their third line defensemen are honestly first line. The first go-to defenseman on other teams in the NHL, even other teams in the playoffs, rather, because that's how good this defense is. With Pekka Rinne backstopping and net, that's dangerous. And then you can't even mention up front on offense where they have Philip Forsberg, who I really think is a great player. You saw the offense, all these random players coming in, huge last playoffs for them. I think they're going to do it again. They said they have the best home crowd in sports over there in Nashville. But
watch out for catfish.
Yeah, watch out for catfish. They were really riding high last year. They thought they were going to do it. It's going to be exciting this year. I really think they're the team to watch. Exactly, President's Trophy winners. Alex Ovechkin's on the team, so you know they're not going to choke in the second round.
That's right. When you're right, you're right. Yeah, I think, dude, it's going to be a sweep. I think they're sweeping them, dude. Avalanche have, they got McKinnon and everything, but they lost Eric Johnson, a stud defenseman, and they don't have Varlamov, dude. They're done. I think Varlamov might come back for the Western Conference Final. He's eligible, but, dude, they're not making it. They're not making it past Nashville. They're going to get swept. That defense, like you said, is so loaded. That atmosphere over there is crazy. It's over. They make it out. I think they make it out.
What's his name?
What's that?
There it is. There it is. We got it.
Yep, good stuff in Nashville. Again, like I said, watch out for the Catfish if you're going to play a game down in Nashville, Tennessee. Also in the Western Conference, there is no doubt at this point that the Vegas Golden Knights are the best expansion team in their inaugural season in sports history. But the Pacific Division champs have a tough test in the Los Angeles Kings to start their first playoffs. The Kings are eager to come back after missing the playoffs entirely last year. Will the miracle season end in Sin City, or can Vegas move on to the second round?
It's going to end. It's going to end. It's a shame. But LA, they've been there once, they've been there twice, and they're about to do it again. Because you can't have the best goal, least goals allowed. Jonathan Quick won the NHL award this year for letting in the least amount of goals. Jonathan Quick also has a Conn Smythe championship. He also has 2 Stanley Cups.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal. And Dustin Brown, since they stripped the captaincy off him, gave it to Anze Kopitar. Both players have been Well, Dustin Brown exceeded his expectations because they thought took it off him because he wasn't playing very well, but now he's playing lights out. He's having one of his best seasons of his career.
Phenomenal.
Kopitar is just an animal. He's definitely top 10 in the league. Not to mention they have the best defensive defenseman in Drew Doughty.
Yeah.
And all that depth. I mean, half those players won the Stanley Cup with them 4 years ago. I really think that LA, they just have the experience, they have the big body, they have the big presence. Jeff Carter's a big dude. He's
savage, dude.
He is.
Talos Toffoli, even him too.
Yeah. They have the young guys that've been playing with them. They upset about last season. They definitely turned everything around this season. I think the Kings every single year so far with Jonathan Quick and Drew Doughty and Kopitar, they've been Stanley Cup contenders, and I don't think that a young first team on the block, Vegas Golden Knights, I know they won the Pacific, but I don't think they can keep it rolling in the playoffs.
I'm the same way, dude. It's going to be I think the Kings are going to come out of it. They've kind of been in the shadow of like Chicago when they were good for a little bit. Now they're trash. And then the Penguins too, they kind of like but their roster was all still there with Jeff Carter and Toffoli and Drew and all of them, Johnny Quick. They still had that core of guys, Kopitar. So they kept that, and with the change of GM, he kind of realized that this is a league of speed when the Penguins set that standard, So he picked up some speed. They kind of like worked with what they could because after the deadline and everything. So I think with that combination of speed and size, I think it's game over, dude, for Vegas. Vegas is young, got a lot of speed. I think the Kings are going to wear them out. I think the speed can only get them so far. I think with the playoffs, it definitely gets more physical. It definitely gets like hits go up like a ridiculous amount. So I think Vegas is gonna think twice about that odd man rush and trying to like cheat. Like they're gonna be looking over their shoulder, dude, and they're gonna get banged up. Like you said, dude, Drew Doughty, phenomenal. He's just a stud defenseman. Like they've got so much size on that team. I think. And on top of that, when you got Johnny Quick, like it's game over for me. So
I agree.
Yeah, so I got Kings.
The no depth. I don't think there's too much depth in the whole team, scoring-wise, on Vegas. I mean, you really have Marcia Show and William Karlsson scoring all the goals. You look at James Neal, he choked in the playoffs last year. Look what he did in the final, nothing. He choked with big pressure. David Perron, the most inconsistent player to ever skate on ice, I swear
Didn't
to God.
do anything with the Penguins.
He did nothing. He traded a first-round pick for him. What did he do? Nothing.
I know, dude.
And then he leaves the team, and now what? He found the diamond in the rough. He's getting out now.
No, dude, I'm the same way. I think with that whole, so all these other Penguins for sure, they got a bunch of studs and everything, and all these like Kopitar with the Kings in that series, but they don't have. I think they're not even top 25. Well, Karlsson and Marcia Salt, they're not even top 25 in scoring. So they got a bunch of guys down there who have almost the same chunk of points. Like who's gonna put the team on their back in that big moment? They don't have any big star talent out there besides James Neal and everything. Obviously NHL, but. When it comes down to the wire, dude, I don't think that they're gonna have guys stepping up there and making big plays. I think it's over, dude. First round, they're going out. You heard it here.
All right, so let's run through just some quick keys and predictions for the last couple of series. We'll start with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New Jersey Devils.
Oh my! Talk about another sweep. The depth on Tampa Bay is. Ryan McDonough is not even the number one defenseman. It's Victor Hedman.
Dude.
Like if Ryan McDonough, Captain America, he captains the USA team, and then he's captain of the Rangers, and they get him, and he's you hear nothing from them.
That's crazy, dude.
It's crazy. That
JT on the third line.
Yeah,
like,
JT Miller on the third
much,
line.
dude.
They do have so much. You have Yanni Gord, who's might win Rookie of the Year. They have the Rookie of the Year, a healthy Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov.
Yeah. They don't even have. Well, they don't have Stamkos, but they went to the Eastern Conference Final in 2016.
Yeah,
and they didn't have. You know, they
have him.
lost to the Penguins. No big deal. But Vasilevsky had a really good series. That series. I think he'll play really well. Obviously, that defense, they got some depth. They got a lot of talent up front on the for the forwards. But everybody's talking about Taylor Hall possibly winning that Hart Trophy. But the thing with that is, like, it's Taylor Hart. Or Taylor Hall, and then it's Nico. No, it's Nico. Yeah, dude, that's and it's like 40 points back. So who's gonna?
40 points.
All you have is Taylor Hall on that team,
honestly,
really. And like Corey Schneider, 2015. Like if it was 2015 Corey Schneider, yeah, they put up some numbers and like maybe snag a game or two. But no, dude, it's gonna be Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is all over that.
Yeah.
All right, next up, the Boston Bruins and the young upstart Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, here we go. This is what I like to. This series is going to be a good one. I don't like Boston personally, but I'm taking bias out. I still think Toronto could really give them a run for the money, and I think Toronto's going to win in 7. I think the young talent in Toronto is just. Listen, you know who didn't make the playoffs this year? Connor McDavid's Edmonton Oilers. You know who made the playoffs this year?
Austin Matthews,
Toronto Maple Leafs. You know why? Because he's a good young player. He's a good leader on that team. I know they brought in Patrick Marleau, a great veteran. He came in. They put him on with Nylander and Mitch Marner.
Nylander's having a phenomenal season. 60 point? Was it like 60 point season?
Exactly. All these young players, they have all ability. They have. Sorry. Excuse me. They all have the ability to take over a game. They really do. Yeah. They all have the ability to score. Even Zach Hyman, like a player like Zach Hyman, who can really tore apart Washington last year in the first round. I mean, they only stole 2 games off them. A fluky goal in overtime. They could have took 3 right there if Toronto would have scored there. Yeah. I really think that this young team, coached by the best coach in the league, second Mike Sullivan, but Mike Babcock, he's a phenomenal coach. I think he's going to outwit, outsmart, and outlast the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, dude, that's what I had. So Babcock, obviously, with coaching that team, is like phenomenal coach. Austin Matthews, I think, is the most well-rounded player of all those young guys. A lot of speed. He can skate. You know, he can shoot. He can do it all. Frederik Andersen, actually, I looked at it, dude. Goalie-wise, phenomenal goal. I think he's like top 3, and he's faced like 800 more shots than the goalie Tuukka Rask. And Tuukka Rask, you never know. He can be consistent. But I'm going Boston in 7. It's Boston, dude. I don't see any flaws with that team. Really young, really deep. They've got so much talent. They can do it all. Like
Rick Nash is coming back.
Dude, they've got it. Like I really don't see them lose. I think it's going to be Game 7. I think it's going to be a really good series, real physical. Those teams hate each other. But Toronto, I think 3-1 in that regular season series. So Toronto was the one team that I don't think Boston wanted to face. So it's going to be a really good series. That's like up there with the Pens Flyers for me to watch.
So we're getting close on time. Let's just pick a winner for the 2 Western Conference series: San Jose Sharks and Anaheim Ducks. Who you got?
Sharks.
Ducks.
All right, split on that one. And then the final series, the Winnipeg Jets and Minnesota Wild.
Okay, I have something to say about this. I've been looking at the experts in NHL, and they've been saying that the Jets are their favorite to come out of the West, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. I know they're coming in 9-1-0 in their last 10, and they're on a 5-game win streak. But other than the first 2 lines, they're rubbish down below. Okay, so I'm picking them to win the first round, but I'm definitely not picking them to go far.
Well, it's a shame that we're out of time because I actually have them going to the final. So I had them in the Penguins.
There you go.
So actually, dude, Halibut is a phenomenal goal. He's like one of the best in the league, and he's in the shadow of like Pekka Rinne, Fleury was up there, went to Vegas.
Jumping
he took it. Tuukka Rask, and Halibut was just kind of cruising along, and they've got a real dude. They've got up there with I think they're like with the Kings in size and everything. But their offense is phenomenal. Patrick Laine, like Ovi Jr., that dude's a monster. But yeah, so I got them.
Yeah, well, we'll have plenty of time throughout the rest of the playoffs to discuss the NHL with these 2 guys, Jake Taylor and Mike Costa. Next up, we'll talk some MLB with Chris Hayes and Jared Brown. Come back.
Pens for the 3-peat.
Welcome back to The Big Hit. We're going to talk some baseball here with our baseball guys, Jared Brown and Chris Hayes. And right now, there are only 3 teams in all of baseball that have better records than the Pittsburgh Pirates: the Red Sox, the Astros, and the New York Mets. And is it safe to say that the Pittsburgh Pirates have been the biggest surprise in baseball this year? We'll start with you, Brownie.
I want to say yes, but if you go back and look at last season, I'm not going to say it's that big of a surprise. I think people are sleeping on the Pirates as a whole. If you look at what they had to deal with as a team last year, Their superstar center fielder, McCutchen, struggled the whole season, and he was supposed to carry a lot of weight for that franchise. But then also, they had their star pitcher, Jamison Tyone, out for about a month and a half, 2 months with testicular cancer. And their best outfielder, Starling Marte, missed half the season because of a PED use. If you look at what they did last year, they only missed the second wild card game by 12 spots. So with the addition of Corey Dickerson, an upgrade in my opinion from McCutchen, Marte back for a whole season, and Tyone having his health all cleared up, I think it's safe to say the Pirates are right back in the hunt for that second. That makes up for 12 games in the season, and the Pirates can contend for a playoff spot. But that being said, in April, no, Pirates fans, we are not used to seeing Pittsburgh win this early. We usually struggle early on, pick it up as the weather warms up. So it's great to see us improve in the early months and be able to get some wins early on, because that has been a struggle ever since Clint Hurdles came to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. I think since 2011, 2012 or so, the Pirates always start off slow. With McCutchen especially, he always starts off slow too. Now that he's gone, I think that's kind of ignited the team a little bit. Corey Dickerson, like you said, off to a blazing hot start. The thing that worries me is the bullpen. The bullpen has been pretty lackluster so far. Guys like Dovydas, Neverauskas, Edgar Santana, Josh Smoker have been terrible. Let's be honest, they've been really bad. The rotation has been good. I think Trevor Williams, Nova had a good start today. Tyone was excellent on Sunday against the Reds. Complete game shutout. The pitching staff has been good. The bullpen, not so good. The lineup is fantastic, like you said, led by Dickerson. Polanco's having a breakout year so far, 2 weeks into the season. Harrison's having a good start. Marte, all the guys are contributing really well. They got depth on the bench too, but I think, like you said, it's all about what happens in May and June, July, not just April. Even though they've started off very hot, I think the Mets are a team that people think was supposed to be good this year. But to have one loss so far and to be so dominant like they have been, Syndergaard's been excellent. Their staff has really materialized what people have thought they would be. Syndergaard, Matz, DeGrom, Harvey, all those guys, they've been solid too. But I'd say the Mets and the Pirates are both the biggest surprises.
Yeah, and the Pirates, of course, sitting at 8-2 after the win today. They have the newly named Felipe Vasquez holding down the bullpen at least. And you mentioned the Mets, of course, great pitching staff there. And let's turn our attention to the NL East, more importantly, the nation's capital. With Bryce Harper returning to MVP form, he's hitting .357 with 6 homers and 12 RBIs as it sits now. Has he returned to being the most intimidating batter in the league, or will we still give that title to someone like Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, or somebody else?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say Bryce Harper's the most intimidating batter in the league so far. Especially if you go down and look at all the advanced sabermetrics, all those ridiculous stats that no one really knows what they mean. I didn't know what they but I can tell you that Bryce Harper was leading in 15 out of 28 statistical categories. So he's definitely doing something right. And also just like those three, that stat line right there, 375, 6 home runs and 12 RBIs, that is unheard of 8 games in the season. If he keeps it up, he's hitting Barry Bonds power numbers without steroids. So absolutely, I do think Bryce Harper is the most intimidating batter in the league. Giancarlo Stanton, he's kind of taken a turn for the worse. I don't know if the switch to New York's bothering him. I don't know if it's the cold weather. I think that's the worst excuse ever because your opponents are in the cold weather too. But
he was in Miami though for years.
No. It's 34 degrees wherever they're playing. But Giancarlo Stanton is on pace for over 300 strikeouts. I think he's kind of fallen off the wagon a bit. But Aaron Judge, I think he's getting a little more scouted and becoming a little more exposed. And we saw it in the second half of the season. But Bryce Harper keeping it up. Payday year, he's going to be the richest athlete ever.
You're probably right, but the one guy who I'd compare Harper to right now is Shohei Ohtani for the Angels. He's lighting it up and pitching really well. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but Harper's off to a blazing start, like you said. 6 homers, 12 ribbies. I mean, I watched the Sunday night game against the Mets on ESPN, and they were afraid to pitch to him when he wasn't hitting home runs. They'd walk him on purpose. I think in the 9th inning they walked him on purpose. It was just crazy. Harper's probably the most talented player in baseball besides Mike Trout, possibly. In my opinion, I think he has a good shot to win MVP this year. But I think Trout is up there. Ohtani's up there right now. Stan, like you said, I think it is the cold weather. It's giving him a little bit of problems, honestly. I think he's used to the weather in Miami.
Bad excuse.
And now he's playing in the snow in New York. Come on.
Bad excuse. I don't buy that excuse.
I do right now. It's still early. It's 2 weeks in, but I think he'll be all right. I mean, it's a Little League park in New York. I think he'll He'll hit his 45.
He'll get his
yeah.
home runs, but those strikeouts, that's definitely a big red flag.
Yeah, I think Judge and Stanton are going to strike out a ton, especially Stanton.
Yeah.
5 strikeouts in 2 games, two separate games so far. That's
He's
horrid.
All because of the cold, huh?
Not all because of the cold, partly because of the cold, in my opinion. But I think, Harper might win the MVP this year if he keeps on this pace. He's on pace for probably like 300 home runs, so we'll see if he hits that. We'll see.
Yeah, you have Harper playing really well in Washington, D.C. This is probably their year to go for a World Series title because you never know if they're going to have the money to bring him back. You guys, with the cold weather, they can barely get people to show up in Miami as it is. But Stanton, for being the first player to have 5 strikeouts and no hits in 2 separate games, I think the first player ever to do that in a full season. That's definitely pretty crazy. Now let's turn our attention to the other team in Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia Phillies, who are in the same division, the NL East, and they've been struggling so far. What is it going to take for the Phillies to have a serious run at the postseason this year?
A miracle, just a straight up miracle.
Brutally honest.
I'm not trying to go after the Phillies. I think they have made a bunch of steps in the right direction, pulling Aaron Nola up from the minors at the right time, signing Jake Arrieta, but they're just not there. And the NL East is way too powerful, especially with Washington and Bryce Harper, Daniel Murphy playing on contract years. That pitching staff in Washington, and then that 3-headed monster of a pitching staff in New York. Philadelphia, they don't have the resources or the talent to just overcome those 2 teams. I do think that the Phillies are making steps in the right direction. They're probably the 3rd best team in that division, but there's a big gap between 1 and 2 and 3.
I agree. I think Philly's on their way up, but it's the Mets and the Nats in that division, and that's pretty much a done deal. Can Philly contend for a wild card? Maybe. I don't see it right now. I mean, they're off to kind of a slow start, and Gabe Kapler's made some awful decisions as manager so far. Pulling Nola in the opening day after 5 innings and like 60 pitches. They blew a 5-run lead, and then getting a guy out of the bullpen who wasn't even warmed up. I mean, it's his first year as manager, and he's given a pass for some things, but stuff like that you just can't excuse. Nola's a good pitcher, probably a 2 or a 3. I don't know if he's a 1 right now. Vince Velasquez is solid. Arrieta was a good pickup for them. I'm not sure if he fits that team right now, though. I think it was kind of a weird pickup, but he's a talented pitcher for sure, as we all know as Pirates fans when he shut us out in the wild card game. We're not going to talk about that anymore.
Yeah,
but Philly, can they contend this year? I think so, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, the NL East is definitely strong. Let's shift our attention out to the West Coast, where the Dodgers have struggled early on, but the Angels have definitely flourished early in the season. Have the Angels stolen the baseball throne in Los Angeles, or will the Dodgers be able to return to 2017 form when they won the National League?
I don't think they've stolen the baseball throne in LA yet. There's just too much talent on that Dodgers team to count them out. But they have absolutely stolen the show. And with Ohtani, my man Ohtani, I am in love with this guy. I don't think people appreciate how this is a once in a generation type of player. Actually, once every other generation, because the last time we had someone who could play on both sides of the ball, pitching and hitting, his name was Babe Ruth. I don't think people appreciate how rare what we're actually seeing is and how fun it is to see a pitcher go up there and just crank it. We're expecting him to crank it. It's great. I think what he's doing is great for baseball. We should be expecting all pitchers to hit. I don't get why this is a rare thing, but it is, and it's great for the sport. I'm loving him. They've definitely stolen the show, but the Dodgers are too good to stay behind the Angels all year.
Yeah, it's a cool story right now. I think Ohtani will have a good season, not a great season. I'm not ready to compare him to Babe Ruth yet. He's off to a really hot start, like we said. I mean, home runs in, 3 straight games or something. He'll have his good year, I think, and he'll be all right. But I think the league's going to punch back, so to speak. That's what usually happens when you see guys come into the majors. Look at Jung Ho Gong. He had a great season. He had injuries too, but then the league kind of punched back, and he wasn't as good in his second year. I think Ohtani will have a good season, not a great year, but I think the Angels are a cool story right now. They're off to a really hot start. Trout, Ohtani, Pujols is still raking in his late 30s. Guys like that are bringing it to the table. But I think it is the Dodgers of the class of LA right now. Dave Roberts has that team in a good spot, and they're so talented. Justin Turner's hurt right now, I think, but when he gets back, they've got all the weapons to make a run at the NL pennant once again.
All I'm going to say about Ohtani is if you look at his pitching stat line, it's nearly identical to Clayton Kershaw's.
Oh, wow.
And if you look at their batting stat lines, Kershaw's pathetic compared to Ohtani. So, I mean, if Kershaw was hitting like this, we already have him in the Hall of Fame. So gives Ohtani a chance. I'm super excited, and I hope he hits 600 career home runs.
I'm excited too, but it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I know we're all happy to have baseball back here on the Big Hit. Good stuff from our guys Jared Brown and Chris Hayes. We'll be right back. Stay tuned to the Big Hit.